Harold Hotelling Memorial Lecture of 2024. This is a very special event in the college. Harold was a dear, dear friend, colleague, was here for 20 years or so, and we all loved him dearly. I want to begin, before I get started, I want to acknowledge George, Harold's son, and daughter-in-law, George's daughter, Harold's granddaughter, Sydney, coming to share this night with us. So, as I mentioned, Harold was a professor here at Lawrence Tech. He taught economics, he taught law, he taught ethics, he taught a variety of subjects in social concepts or social issues. He was a former department chair, program director. He was an amazing wit. Those of us who knew him, you could not think of a time where you didn't see Harold smiling. I mean, Harold was just the light of his space, no matter what he was involved in. Committee meetings, or department meetings, or just kibitzing in the hallway, Harold always had something that would rivet you, but also entertain you and make you smile. So we loved Harold deeply. And so this lecture series is dedicated to his memory. And so again, I welcome you to the evening. So at this point, I'm going to introduce Dr. Jason Barrett, who is going to introduce our featured speaker this evening. Thank you.
Thanks for coming, everybody. I'm Jason Barrett. I'm a history professor in the humanities department here, and I'm a member of the ever-dwindling cohort of attendees to these events who work closely with Harold. And he was, just to re-emphasize, just a tremendously kind and generous mentor to me when I was starting as a young professor. And I think more than anything else about Harold, he just loved this university. And he always had a smile on his face, and he was always willing to contribute to help out the university. So it's been my great honor for 14 consecutive years to participate in the selection committee to choose the speakers to come and present the Hotelling lecture. And I know that Harold would be proud of the speakers that we have brought over the last 14 years. As I was thinking about it and thinking about tonight's speaker, there is a kind of, for at least in my own experience and coming and hearing these speakers, a kind of recurring theme of an unexpected kind of prescience in these topics. That is, I have come again a year and year to what seemed like a kind of obscure topic to only find out in the subsequent year or two or three, holy cow, this was a major international issue, and I know something about it because we had the speaker for the Hotelling lecture here a year or two or 3 years ago. And there were several instances of that. Well, I think we have a speaker tonight that's in that tradition. We are all living through the outcome of what was the Biden infrastructure bill, or the Build Back America Better bill. That is, we're all living with the construction traffic around Metro Detroit, and we can see very visibly the billions of dollars that we have invested in our transportation infrastructure. But what's going on, I think, at this very moment that's less obvious to us or less in our face is that there are major investments being made through that piece of legislation in our energy infrastructure, and particularly investments to convert us to a green carbon economy. And those are decisions that are being made at this very moment at the city planning level, the county planning level. It's not cranes on the freeway and we get shoved down to one lane of traffic and have to sit for 30 minutes. But I suspect that we're going to find out in 3, 4, 5, 7, 8 years that the decisions that are being made today are having a profound consequence for our access to alternative energy and a green energy economy. And that's very much then the kind of theme of the topic that our speaker is going to talk on tonight. Dr. Jongeun comes to us from Northern Michigan University, where he's an assistant professor in the Department of Political Science and Public Administration. Dr. Yu did his undergraduate work in economics at Seoul National University in Seoul, South Korea. He came to the United States to earn his master's degree in public policy from the University of Michigan. He went on from Ann Arbor then to earn his PhD in public affairs from the University of Colorado at Denver. And when he completed his PhD, then did a postdoc at the Colorado School of Mines in Denver, which is a place I have a particular attachment. We did every year ski trips out west. And my father, who was desperate to have one kid attend a school in Colorado so he could have access to a ski area, we used to do the little tour through Golden, and he would point out there are good schools in Colorado you can go to. Along the way with those accomplishments, Dr. Yu also has worked for several different international contracting outfits on several international construction projects, and he has been a consultant on those projects. He has quite a bit of international experience. He has published impressively for being an assistant professor in a number of different fields, primarily related to public health. He has several articles, which was very interesting because I told you we looked at job candidates in public policy last year. We're getting a number of really interesting studies around the COVID policy and international public policy in terms of sharing vaccines and looking at comparative outcomes, how different nations approach the COVID situation, and Dr. Yu has published in that area. He has published in the cybersecurity of our water infrastructure, which is very interesting, but primarily he has published in the area of our energy infrastructure. And he's come here to talk to us tonight about the political and public policy parameters and challenges we face in making the investments, long-term investments in a different energy economy. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Yu. Thank you so much, Dr. Yu.
Thank you everyone, and especially thank you to Dr. Barrett and host in the backyard. So it's hard to make this kind of event happen. So would you join me appreciating Dr. Barrett? Also, we all wish that Dean Nelson's quick recovery, so that the back pain is really hard. And I haven't had a chance to meet with Dr. Hoteling in person, but at least given engagement with Dr. Barrett and Dr. Bauer, I can imagine how wonderful he was. So I know that we all miss him a lot, and so I really appreciate George Hoteling and Sydney Hoteling attending today. So that in appreciating Hoteling's legacy, I think I have to entertain at least one person here today. So that I will back to my seat, but let me use this mic for a second. So that and also I really appreciated all the students here, and then also staff and the faculty here, like staying on campus at 7 p.m. I'm not sure, but I really appreciate your time. So that throughout the lecture, one thing I really keep in mind is that I really hope this small talk could give you some moment to think, and then it can inspire you, and then whatever you major right now, whatever you study, I believe when you work out this room, you can take away at least one thing, so that I really hope it can be a good experience to inspire your future. So I always apply theory to solve real-world problems, and it is based on my professional experience. I work for a very large engineering construction company, and then while I work for my old company, I involved in project in Canada, also Middle East. So I went to Saudi, Kuwait, and UAE, and I also went to Myanmar, and I also involved in project in Singapore. And so I have several projects, and we can talk about that later, but this is real experience, especially in the engineering construction company, in the oil and gas industry. If you have a friend there,
you can imagine that like how competitive the industry is right now. So that we are using a lot of very advanced technology, but at the same time, we have to interact with so many stakeholders. Like my company's major client was Aramco, like Edna, or the KOC, the Iraqi Ministry of Petroleum and Oil. So that there are so many stakeholders. We have to deal with that. And they gave me the sense that I have to study more, especially public policy. So that I went to University of Michigan and University of Colorado Denver, and then I also did my postdoctoral training at the Colorado School of Mines, which is located in Golden. It's a good place for skiing. And so then I think I wanted to bring these things like how to apply theory to real world problems within this specific issue. And I'm a public administration and policy scholar, and I have expertise in energy, water, and health policies. So I cover several things, but one thing I keep in mind across these policy domains are equity. So I really highlighted the equity issue and equality issue, justice issue, so that throughout these policy domains, how we can do better for the more equitable and more sustainable society. And when I do research, I use several research tools. I'm specializing in policy analysis and evaluation and using multiple methods. I use the media analysis. We have Steven who we do media study, and also legislative study and network analysis. And I also do the spatial and statistical analysis using GIS, R, and data. And from the policy perspective, I use several policy process theories and called the advocacy coalition framework or policy conflict framework. I will deal with that a little bit briefly. And I'm also, I was glad to meet with Mr. Schwartz, alumni of Lawrence Tech, and they does some EV cybersecurity. And one of my specialties is water cybersecurity. And I was a DARPA riser in 2022. DARPA is the federal agency under the Department of Defense, and you can imagine that the DARPA was ARPA, so that they made ARPANET. Now it is the internet. So DARPA made the internet or GPS, all the cool things, and then they awarded some junior scientists and researchers in the national security. Then I was honored to be the DARPA riser due to the water cybersecurity research. And this photo was from the DARPA riser conference. And then interestingly, I was the only social scientist in the DARPA, so that when I presented my research about the water cybersecurity, and it was more from the policy and political perspective, and then when I presented to the DARPA and DOD and the US Air Force and so many military experts, and then they thought that, wow, that's just so fascinating, but I don't know what you're talking. So that's also one of the experience, but it really helped them, even though like they are really just the military guys and then national security guys, and then they heavily rely on those technology. But I found that they found some interesting thing, and also they told me later that even though they could not understand, comprehensively understand my research, but still it was enough for them to think and inspire. And then so that later I got a couple of messages that how that moment changed their later research, and then also other things. So that's one of the hope, and that's one of the reason I wanted to share this experience. So even though some of you may be not familiar with my language and terms, but I'll do my best to make it accessible to you. But even though if you think right now, I'm not sure, I didn't get that term, or no worry. It takes time, definitely, but I really believe that this thinking, this moment, could inspire you to change your career, hopefully. And Fortunately, I have published several journals. So I got 15 peer-reviewed journal articles across 3 policy domains, and I got some modest number of Google Scholar citation, and I was also able to get funding individually from Lincoln Institute of Land Policy or Dow Chemical or FEMA. And one thing I wanted to, like it's not directly related to today's research, but one thing I wanted to emphasize to introduce myself is that I'm a true Upper. So Dr. Bauer will explain to you what the definition of a true Upper. So I came from UP, East Pima, Michigan, and I'm a true Upper. So I have a heart for UP Michigan, so that if you wanted to contribute to this kind of a thing, and then please come and talk to me. And then I recently founded the research center. My wife Jenny gave me this idea, so we call it UPER Center, and it is Upper Peninsula Policy and Environmental Research Center, so that we call it UPER Center. And this center is aiming to address the environmental issues, especially in UP Michigan, so that through the policy perspective, but also I'm very open to address the policy issues in downstate here as well. I went to University of Michigan, and I got my degree from the Ford School of Public Policy and School of Environment and Sustainability, so that I'm very familiar with the environmental issues in downstate as well. But I wanted to let you know that if you meet someone like who wants to fund and support research in UP Michigan, then please think Dr. Yu. Yeah. And today's research would be more focused on energy over this 3 policy domain. And also like I may use the mic again, but the reason I started to like a little bit help you think, but also I wanted to crisis, because when we think the renewable energy, and but before that, we understand that there are trends that called energy transition, and then so many people wanted to move to lower carbon. And then so when we wanted to the less coal power plant but have more the lower carbon like that, then we needed to make the natural gas pipeline so that we can deliver gas. Also, when we connected those renewable energy, any solar, wind, or any other, to the not only from the production center, but it is called the consumption center, those places that have a high demand for those power, then we have to connect the power lines, electricity transmission lines. Because if we do not have those electricity transmission lines, then it is impossible to deliver from what we produced from whatever sources to the demand center. Also, we know that we have to build more the solar powers and wind powers, and to achieve our the carbon neutrality declaration, and also make our society more sustainable. And so that's why we could see that we are facing energy infrastructure crisis. And second thing is that, okay, if we agree with that, oh yeah, okay, I'm not quite sure that all the regions, but I can see that it is changing, the world is changing, the society is changing, but we are facing energy infrastructure crisis. The second things we have to think about that when we need something, the energy infrastructure, we need siting, energy infrastructure siting. But when we do energy infrastructure siting, the energy infrastructure siting includes so many processes. We cannot just let the DTE, for example, DTE wanted to build some solar plant, and then, okay, DTE, you can plant whatever. No, we know that. It doesn't happen. So those siting, around the siting, there are many controversies and many debates, and so that some people think that I understand energy infrastructure siting, especially renewable energy, we need more solar, we need more power, but not in my backyard or not in my neighborhood. Also, and even beyond the NIMBYism or many other social science factors, we can understand that those energy siting can ignite many conflicts. And then why that matter? When there are so high conflict, then it will delay the project or even cancel the project, or even though they haven't delayed that and they haven't canceled that, it is very likely to increase the cost. I work for the energy industry. When construction costs up, that means the companies have to share the burden, not just from the company, have to share the burden with the customer. So at the beginning, we wanted to have one project that could help our community, but later we had some policy conflict, very controversial policy conflict, for example, and then if that project haven't canceled, haven't delayed, but if it increased the cost, then it would be against the original intended policy, or also it could harm to the price, like it will increase energy bill. So I made it like this analogy to make it simple speaking. So that because of that, when we think energy infrastructure, we have to think about energy infrastructure siting, and then we have to think about policy conflict, because those policy conflict will impact our energy infrastructure siting and eventually the energy transition or all other the sustainable society future. And these are the puzzles and I wanted to explore. And also in Michigan, this is clearly the future. This is the photos, and I put all the sources below. So if you wanted to explore, you can see that. And then it was just November 2023 in Lansing, and then the Governor Whitmer signed historic clean energy and climate action packages, and it was very, very ambitious goal, and it is going on. So right now we understand that it is happening in Michigan, right here. And also, if you are familiar with this bill or not, this is one of the significant bills that will impact level of conflict, moderate conflict, and high conflict intensity. And then according to this policy process theory named the policy conflict framework, the variance of conflict intensity can be explained by the policy position, whether they are the divergence of a policy position, whether they have a no position divergence or have a moderate level or strong position divergence. Also can be explained by the threat from the other positions, the other policy positions. It is a perceived threat, whether it has a perceived threat 0 or moderate or strong. Also, it can be explained by the willingness to compromise. So even though like we make a compromise, and also in policy, we have to make a compromise always, but sometimes there are some instances that we are willing to make a compromise with those people who are in the other policy position, but also sometimes not. And then, so this is just a very overview of this policy conflict framework, but you may imagine that, oh, this theory may help for this specific research, but also understand how we could understand those different policy conflict and how we could measure policy conflict and how can we explain with the various factors. So that's why I relied on that. And today's presentation tried to answer two specific research questions. And then if you are freshman here, and then you may be not familiar with these terms, research equation. So research equation means you can think about it like the critical thinking, because in most of our research, the researchers, faculty start with the research equation to answer. So rather than just brainstorming, we started with a very concrete idea of how to answer, so that this will give us the better sense this research overall. The first research question is that how does the distribution of conflict intensity vary across energy infrastructure siting project? So again, it's about the distribution of conflict intensity. Second research question is what factors are associated with the intensity of energy infrastructure siting conflict. And this research has been conducted in the US context, and then this deal with the 4 specific energy infrastructure types, and natural gas pipeline, electricity transmission lines or power lines, and solar and wind project. There are several reasons, but one primary reason to select these 4 energy infrastructure types are that these are the most intense and also most important energy infrastructure types in the US right now. So that even though it does not capture every energy infrastructure siting, but it could be very, very generalizable. Also, it could cover overall aspects of this research. And then also, second thing, I wanted to especially talk to the students. So you may hear about if you taking research design or research methodology class. I'm teaching right now in this semester. One thing I found the students are struggling is about the name sampling, because the research, even though we want to answer good research question, but we have to get data, simply speaking, but we cannot usually, in many cases, we cannot get data, like all data, because of a given time, and then there are many IRB or many restrictions, so that in most cases, we have to select some of the data, but it is called sampling for students. And then, but sampling, not every cases, there are many ways to address that, but sampling can have biases. So even though we can try to do our best to have the best sampling that can answer our research question, but also can be generalizable enough, but sampling can have biases. So please, students, come and talk to me if you wanted to know more about research method design. I love them. But this research particularly really wanted to avoid those sampling biases. So it had a very ambitious goal we examine a population of U.S. energy infrastructure project covering these 4 types in a given year, 2018. Again, it covered not sampling, it covered a population. We identified every project in 2018 in the United States, and then it covered all the 619 commercial scale project of this, so that I believe it really can give you an idea that how serious this research was. Also, how it could be a generalizable idea. So again, I'm not just looking at some sample or part of the data, but I'm talking you about the population of most 4 important energy infrastructure siting. So that I believe, again, it is not everything, but it will give a clear enough and strong enough idea so that we can understand U.S. energy infrastructure siting. And after when I identified this the population, I relied on many data sets for the robustness check, also cross-checking. So rather than just search and download the project, and after that I got through the several things, so the EIA and NACRC and Bloomberg and many other data sources, so that this is the comprehensive list of the project. And even though this research also had a 43 in-depth interview, but as I briefly mentioned earlier, it was mainly led by my colleague, Dr. Jill Yodi, and other colleagues, so that I do not pretend that I did this. So that today's research will not talk about this interview part, but please know that in this particular publication, you can have a better understanding how does the interviews data, does the qualitative data could complement the quantitative analysis today. And sometime, and it's for me, sometimes I found that when I attended a special lecture, and then after when I get through those amazing speakers or what they are talking, and then, but maybe it's for me, just my experience, but sometimes I found a little bit unclear. So okay, I got it what they wanted to say, but what exactly they did, what exact research method or how they got through that. So that's why I wanted to highlight and make it very clear research method here, so that it will really give you a clear idea. And then I conducted a spatial and statistical analysis. So this is the method. And then particularly, I applied a new scale of conflict intensity to this population of data, 619 projects. So again, so my research method is a spatial and statistical analysis. And then I created a new scale, and then applied it to the data set I collected, and then it covered the population of 4 energy infrastructure types in 2018. And then IV here for student, it means independent variables, and DV means dependent variables. And whether you do causal inference or just any statistical analysis, whether IV and DV are so important to understand, so that I wanted to make it very clear here. IV, independent variables, those factors we want to explore the county level characteristic around the project, so that we can imagine that when project especially pipelines, if project, so you can I want to give you a sense that for the solar project, you can think that depending on the scale, it's a little bit different, but usually you can imagine that solar project can be located in one specific county. But if it has the more bigger project, or depending on the characteristic like a pipeline, it has to cross over different counties. So there are many counties. So that I covered all the county level characteristics that means that they are the independent variable. So if pipelines or if solar is I want to entertain you, okay? So if solar is in one county, then it data when I conducted the regression analysis, it will cover just one county. But if the pipelines cover 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 county, then I covered all these 6 counties characteristics. So that it really explain that not just like one point of view, but also very systemic view. So these are the county level characteristics that the project cited and located. And then later I will dive deep about that. But also dependent variable is the complete attention intensity score, because as I mentioned earlier, it is hard to measure policy complete, so that we had to create the new scale and about that. The policy complete is the short definition is when they have the disagreement over the government decision, and then it is defined as the policy complete. But we can imagine that the complete measuring complete can be very ambiguous, but complete is often associated with attention, so that attention and complete are different, but we can know that when they have more attention, it tends to have high complete, we can imagine, but also otherwise, if it is high complete, but it can lead to more attention. But also, they are different, so that I did a construct, it is called the construct in research method, dealt with both attention and complete, because the complete is a latent, so that it is unhidden, but it is often observed through attention, but they are different concepts, so that we had to come up with the two constructs, attention and complete. And then the data source was very, very fast, so we relied on news media and social network analysis media, and also other all available data set, and I'm happy to answer about that later. And as you can see, then we searched every available media on it, and then you may be familiar with the Southfield Sun and Oakland Press. So it included those media outlet as well. So any media that are talking about that's one of 690 project, and then it is included in this data set. And then we assign the value from 0 to 3 based on the rules, the protocols. So the big picture, today's big picture is that when we measuring policy complete, it is based on the DOS media, news media, social media, Google search, and so that we are not just capturing a fraction of DOS public opinions, but also if they talk through the social media, Facebook, Twitter, how they perceive the project, how they mention about project, and how they think about project, whether it is controversial or not, it's beneficial or not. So it captures all those things. So, and this research method, this scoring, particularly complete attention intensity scoring, was validated by other research methods as well, and it was validated by interviews and or the discourse network analysis, and that are published in other journals. So I would be happy to talk about that too. And before and now, so I try to give you a sense that why this research matters, and why this research matter, and then how I conducted the research, and how it was based on the literature review, and then concrete research question, and particularly theoretical range. And then now we can close the lecture with the result. But before I dive into the result, I wanted to give you a moment, a thinking moment to think. It's not quiz and no prize, no pressure either, so you don't need to raise your hand, no worries, but just think right now. of these four energy infrastructure type, which energy infrastructure type may have the highest conflict intensity? Pipelines and power line and solar and wind, and then which energy infrastructure type may have the highest conflict intensity? Just think yourself. I give you a second. Thank you. And then we can see, and let's just see how your question, the result to this research question. I wanted to show you with the solar cases. Again, it is not sampling. It is a population of a solar project, 298 projects across the US in 2018. So it covers every solar project. And then you can see that at the bottom, the complete attention to intensity score. Later, you will see that it is the dependent variable, our outcome variable. But when we see the distribution, the 0 to 12, and then I categorize it by the low score 0 to 4, and medium 5 to 8, and then high 9 to 12. But maybe surprisingly to some of you, the most of the majority of a project have low conflict. And again, when we measure conflict, it is not just talking about the newspaper, but also all the social network or all the available data. So based on those very concrete and very robust data set and analysis, we could see that the solar project across the US have the majority of a project have a low conflict. It is against the tendency that when people think energy is high in conflict, and then there are so many high conflict because it's not my neighborhood usually. Like my best friend live in a certain county, and then when they face a new solar project, and they have a very very strong resistance. So given that, I believe that it's very hard to get through the solar project like that. But against the tendency to think solar project, for example, are very controversial or has very high conflict intensity. Based on this research, then we can see that maybe they may not capture the full picture of our situation. So this is this shows the all four energy infrastructure type. You can see that for the pipelines and power lines and solar, the majority of projects are low conflict intensity, and then for the wind powers that medium, but still it's not high. Medium conflict intensity is the majority of project. Also, I wanted to show you and then how it can be explained by the not only distribution but also like special perspective, so that I map out solar project across the US, and then this map is the county map, and then if they are blank, that means that in 2018 they did not have if they are blank, then they did not have a commercial scale solar project. And then I categorize them from the different color, low, medium, high, for blue to red, brown. And then we can see that for the distribution, the spatial distribution, the West has a higher conflict intensity for solar. And again, I map them out on the county level, and then through the different color scale legend. And if they are the blue tone, they tend to have a low. And then if they are yellow tone, it tends to medium. And then if it's red brown, it has the high. And spatial distribution, we can see that solar projects have the higher conflict intensity in the West. So that this is the another way that social scientists can help people think that like not just some incidence, but also we can have a more generalizable idea, and then thus spatial distribution.
And then if you, I map them out in the poor energy infrastructure type, you can see that these regions with a higher conflict intensity vary by infrastructure type. And then so the pipelines tend to have the east, like a left to top, and then you can see that the pipelines in the east tend to have a higher conflict intensity, and then left to bottom transmission line, and right to top the transmission line and wind project have the in the Midwest. You can see that more distribution, and then solar I just talked to before, so that we can see that. Again, this is the way that not only showing the distribution by scoring, but also these maps really help us understand how they distribute in terms of conflict intensity. So these two things were intended to answer the first research question. And second research question. What factors are associated with the conflict intensity? And then again, I'm a guy who really builds on the shoulders of the giants, so that before I start any regression analysis or any quantitative analysis, I really dive into the literature, and then for this research, I identify the prior quantitative studies on sighting conflict, every reliable quantitative studies on, and then related to this foreign press type, and then I detected a set of democratic variables that may be associated with the conflict intensity. Again, these variables, the variables I used for my quantitative analysis are already proven by those other giants. And then they found that had some statistical significance in estimating the conflict intensity or the attention, so related to my research. And so the reason I emphasize it is that sometimes people have little bit like tricky things to when they do regression analysis, because when they change the factors or independent variable, they may give us little bit different answer than reality, but it's a little bit like have like manipulations. But I really wanted to against that, so that this is based on the literature review, and then I already identified that have statistical significance in estimating conflict intensity, so that it will give you an idea that later the result is very strong. So this variable already approved by and reviewed by all other giants, so that it is the political party affiliation and the education attainment level, population and population density, income level, and the racial and the urbanization. So these are the variables that I used for my regression analysis. And again, the DV, dependent variable, the effect, is the level of conflict intensity of a project within a county. And then the unit of analysis is county project diet. So what that means that I showed earlier that independent variable county characteristics, but also we need to, as I briefly demonstrated you, that sometime when project cross over the multiple counties, and then if we do not match them up correctly, and then we can have a little bit different story. So that I made the county project diet. So all the county and all the project has one diet, and then so that it can capture not only all the project specific circumstance, but also the county demographic characteristics, so that unit of analysis here is a county project diet. And then because the dependent variables, scores cannot be less than 0, and then there are usually like NBR, negative binomial regression or Poisson regression, but due to the distribution, we have a math professor, so that I can say that it is based on math. I didn't use calculus, but it is based on math that due to the distribution, Poisson regression is more relevant and more proper. So that I ran the Poisson regression, and also the coefficient here, the models were obtained by the maximum likelihood estimation technique, and then robust standard errors were used to against the heteroscedasticity, and then did all the robustness check to make that clear. And if we, I will not dive into detail into every numbers because but I wanted to show you, highlight here some significant variables and then hit the nail. But in general sense, I wanted to show you that, like for example, model 1 in the red line, you can see that model 1 is for the pipeline, so it captures every pipeline. And the left side, you can see that all the dependent variables that were already confirmed by previous research that have the statistical significant estimate for the conflict intensity. And then, but also I control for the regional dummy variable because as I already demonstrated you that each project infrastructure type may have a different regional cluster and different spatial distribution. So it is important to control for that. But also like the type is different, and then also capacity. I think it's better to here. Also, I control for capacity variable because the capacity means it is a project-specific condition. And for the capacity variable, but also one of the contribution of this research is not only talking about one specific infrastructure type, but it is capturing 4 infrastructure types that are most prominent in the US. But to make it more talking to each other, we need to have some standardized way. And time back to
And so for the pipeline and transmission line, I used the Myers for these capacity variables. And then for the solar and wind project, I use the nameplate capacity. But also, I calculate the percentile rank values of project capacity within each type. That means that within each type, it has the percentile rank, so that if not, we do not think about this, it can be really bias our result, because we can imagine that some solar project has just a nameplate capacity 2 megawatt, but or like very long pipelines may have longer than 200 miles, so that we cannot consider that like that project could be equal, so that by calculating the percentile rank within infrastructure type, we can control for those biases as well. And then again, when I do this control variable, they are project specific, not the county bounded characteristics. So, and then I will just show you some result. And then if we look at the model 1 through model 4, so pipeline, transmission line, solar and wind, so each has a different model. And if we see the political party affiliation, then higher Democratic Party affiliation is associated with the high conflict intensity. So then, like model 1 or model 3, model 4, you can see some the asterisk. Then it shows that it has the statistical significance, and then it shows that, and if it is the like plus sign, it means their relationship association is the positive way. If it is the negative, then it means the other way. So just for students, and then so that when they have some asterisk here, then we can see that the political party affiliation, when not only for this specific variable, but again, I controlled over like all other variables so that it is not just saying that picking up cherry picking. No, it is based on the population, it is based on the literature, it is based on the control for all other variable. We can say that the democratic like party or political party affiliation can be an estimator for this conflict intensity. And then also, as I demonstrated earlier, it has a more dependent variable, but I'm capturing just two of things, some of the things that, but also we can see that for the racial component, lower conflict intensity in Black or Hispanic communities, it means that when they have more Black or Hispanic, when they have more minority communities in energy infrastructure siting, then you can see that it has a negative and statistically significant, but they have the opposite direction, negative. That means when they have more, those communities have more minority communities, they tend to have lower conflict intensity. So this really speaks for the energy justice issues, and then it has many other things, because later I will talk more about that, because we can think about that having a voice in energy infrastructure siting is very important. Everyone knows that. But if those communities that have minority communities, if they ended up in the lower conflict intensity, then we can, if policymakers think that, oh yeah, okay, they do not object the conflict, they do not object the project, they have lower conflict, so that we can make those project in those minority community. But if we dive deep, and then if we test the power suppression, and then if it's not just they do not object that, but it's just because they do not have enough voice, and then their voice didn't reflect in the newspaper or even social network analysis or other public hearing, then it's little bit dangerous to assume that based on that it appears they do not object the project, so that let's build it. So that this really speaks for those energy justice issues. And then lastly, I wanted to show you the mother 5, so that it is the combined mother of all the 690 projects, and then likewise control for all other variables. And then when we see the project type, still political party affiliation is a statistical significant estimator in talking about energy conflict intensity. And also the minority communities tended to have a lower conflict intensity, so that it really speaks for those energy justice issue. And then returning to your thinking moment, the pipelines and the wind project have the higher, more intense, more higher conflict intensity. And then the other way of interpretation is the transmission lines and solar project have the least conflict intensity level. And I also changed all the dummy variables so that so it really it goes through the robustness check, so that it has also a couple of implications. But one thing I want to point out is that because we all know that transmission lines, power lines are so important, so that if you are interested in energy infrastructure siting, many people believe that building more power lines are key for the energy transition and carbon neutrality. But one thing the policymakers are very, very afraid is that because of the policy conflict or the operation or the debate, so that, but if this research is true, then it means that maybe the power lines could have a lower conflict than the people may perceive. So that there are many other implications, but I wanted to highlight that. And this one of the key contribution of this research is that this research provides very generalizable approach for analyzing policy conflict across different contexts. So it's not only about the one energy infrastructure type, it is covering different contexts, and it means it can tell more about just an NIMBYism or other the explanation that when we come up with the energy siting or even the policy conflict in general, so that I believe that it can be applicable to many other situations. And then so that policy makers and then our faculty or researchers can help address those practical issues in Michigan and beyond. But definitely, there are many other research needed to be done to make it more strong, and especially for those factors that can reduce or intensify the conflict, and also when in terms of politically equitable access, and then when there's a vehicle for more democratic environment, there are many research to be done. So to give you an idea, I showed you the result that the minority communities tend to have lower conflict intensity. Then there are four hypotheses I could suggest that when we understand it better, the implication of lower levels of conflict in these minority communities. So whether it is because of they have any power suppression, or it is because those minority communities tend to support more energy infrastructure because it could give them jobs, or it could raise their income or other factors so that they may have more support, or it is because they have a perception that there's a specific energy infrastructure type, like renewable energy. If you have family members who are building solar panel, then you can perceive that more favorable than another project type. And also, if they are due to regulation, local government. For example, we all know that we all appreciate our local government, but also in very some instance, we are facing that those local government checklist can have a little bit less efficient policy outcome. For example, if you are living in a boundary between two different county governments, then it's not ideal, but you could face the situation that one road was cleared, the snow was cleared by one more affluent county government, but the other road was not cleared because not they are lazy, but just because they do not have enough resources to kind of. So kind of that, so that whether it is because of those local government regulatory issues or other checklist issues. And so there are possible funders, I believe, like NSF, DOE, Sloan Foundation, SSH Foundation. So I tried some, but I'm still trying to expand that. So again, I really hope to I did my best, I believe, to give you a sense that how this research was constructed and how could it be applicable to not only your specific policy, like your major, but also how could you inspire you. So thank you again, and I really want to it could help you inspire, be creative, and make magic. Thank you.
We do have time for questions. If anyone has a question like to pose to Dr. Yu, please go ahead.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Yu. I have two questions. One is, could you go back to page 17?
17?
Yeah. So most area is just gray. So I want to clarify. Does gray area mean they match the score of like a 5-ish, or it's just data not available?
Oh, no. So it's null. So it's null. So when they have a gray, that means that that specific county did not have a commercial scale project in 2018. So no project.
So data not available, right?
It's just null value. Yeah.
Okay. So the other question is I didn't write down what page, but you were talking about there's an independent variable and there's a dependent variable, right?
Yes.
So were you able to actually build a mathematical model linking them directly? Like how the input, the independent variable, fluctuate around, it would change the output for the dependent variable. Were you able to like build a mathematical model to analyze?
Sure.
Oh, you did?
So I demonstrated just the Poisson regression analysis, but also maybe I can show you. So it also goes through other like logistic regression analysis like that. So that I definitely changed over so I didn't change the dependent variable, independent variable. They are fixed. But I changed all other modeling issues and then also the analytical techniques so that whether they also can support the result, my main finding from the Poisson regression.
All
so
right.
my answer is yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. Other questions? Great, Hamad.
Hello, thank you. I have a question about how the conflict is perceived from different stakeholders. So in Canada, there was this Kinder Morgan pipeline, Trans Mountain pipeline. You recognize that. So the private sector kind of gave up on continuing investment in that pipeline because of the opposition, and then the government of Canada stepped in and bought it. So how do different stakeholders like private sector and the government deal with this kind of perceived conflict differently?
Yeah. So yeah. First of all, this research is definitely cannot address all the conflict issue, and the main point of this research is to measure policy conflict in a generalizable way and across different contexts. And so to make that happen, it has to be relied on the certain selection and certain construct and then data source, so that there should be nuanced differences between stakeholders about conflict. But if we like a kindergarten, for example, I work for helped my company, old company, win the 2 billion oil sands project from Sunco. So that I'm very familiar with the kindergarten Morgan or other major Canada infrastructure projects. So for example, thus conflict understood and perceived by U.S. government officials and Canadian government officials should be different. But if we just talk about, yeah, they are different, context matter, and there should be different, then we do not have any way to make it compare across different contexts. So that I'm not saying that that's not a good question, but to make it more generalizable approach, and so that's why we selected the specific cases like data source, and so that but tried to deal with all others, so that so it may lose some very nuanced difference, but it will definitely have a one concrete way measure conflict across even they may have a different perception and perceived, but it could be still manageable and then accessible way to capture them.
Thank you. We have time for one more question. Stephen.
Thank you. I really appreciate how you frame this, because from what you're showing here as the dependent variable, this is more so like the visibility of the conflict rather than actual conflict, because it's so difficult to measure what conflict, as you mentioned already. So I'm interested, you mentioned there's another qualitative part of your research that is using interview data. Is there more insight from those part of data when people sort of talking about what those conflicts actually looks like? I'm thinking about different kind of conflict, there can be conflict between the government and private sectors, or sometimes when policy like oppositions in previous slide, you say like, there's like this theoretical framework versus threat between sort of different policy positions. But if you think about sometimes there are stakeholders who do not even have the power to pose as a threat. So I'm interested in learning like, do you see any sort of this kind of more nuanced understanding of what conflicts actually looks like from the qualitative part of your data?
Yeah. So definitely, even though I didn't include the qualitative part, they really help you understand better about policy conflict. So Steven, I recommend you to read my other paper or this paper, so that it really help you understand better about the interview part and qualitative part, really help understand better this quantitative analysis I demonstrated today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yu. Everyone, please join me in thanking Dr. Yu. And we have a small token of our appreciation. Thank you so much, Dr. Yu. And thanks again, everyone, for joining us for the 14th Annual Hoteling Lecture. We look forward to seeing you guys next fall for next year's event. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.